Specialized has made two interesting moves in the last month, and I think they're cluing us into a downfall coming to the bike industry. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, Josh here again with Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and the bike industry is absolutely crazy right now in January of 2023, and so much so that I feel like I have to talk about it and engage you all in conversation. Some of you who watched my last video saw me talk about the fact that I think the bike industry is going to have a huge shakeup, that bike sales are going to go down, the used market is going to be at the floor, and things are getting dangerous in 2023, and most of you agree with me. And the same day my video came out, Specialized announced to the world that they had laid off 8% of their employees. And this is actually the second big move that came out of Specialized, but not only that, a third move that came out of the bike industry. First, let's jump back a month to December. You may have seen this article on Pink Bike or another cycling outlet that you follow, but back on December 13th, we heard that Specialized cuts its global ambassador program. And this article went on to highlight three individuals, the first being Sarah Swallow. And it basically says that each of these individuals have been ambassadors for Specialized. And from what I can understand, Specialized has its sponsored racers that you've probably seen on podiums or racing their bikes. And then there are those who are on social media, like me, that they either give free bikes to or they give free bikes plus a paycheck to in order to promote their company, to do work in their local communities, in order to promote Specialized so that they can sell more bikes. And this is really fascinating because Specialized is a name that you and I both heard of. They're very well known in the cycle industry. I think they're like one of the top 10 companies. But the article went on to say that out of nowhere, Sarah Swallow heard that the global ambassador budget for Specialized had been cut to zero, that they were eliminating all global ambassadors as of last week, and they were prepared to resign everyone. That's pretty interesting because to come out of nowhere, to have these individuals that you have sustained before COVID, in the boom of COVID, and then now, even though bike sales seem very high, and a lot of you commented, bike sales are going great in my country, I don't know what's up in the US, to have a company like Specialized worldwide cut this means something is going on. And the question comes into mind, well, how much money are they actually saving? Well, in the article, it goes on to highlight two other guys, Steve Fastbinder and then Ty Hathaway. And Ty actually reveals how much he was receiving from Specialized, which always makes my eyebrows go up. If we scroll way down in this Pink Bike article, and Hathaway, who not even 1 month ago shut the doors on Golden Saddle Cyclery in Los Angeles, apologies to Ty, that's a bummer, was definitely counting on the $1,500 a month that Specialized was paying him in 2022. That equals $18,000 a year that this athlete was receiving. And as I dug in a little deeper on Ty's Instagram, you see he has 16.5 thousand followers. You see that he documents and showcases Specialized pretty well, at least on Instagram. I couldn't find too much about the guy, but that lets us know that he was receiving a pretty sizable income from Specialized. And for those of you who are surprised, that's not a ton of money for an influencer like him. That seems to make sense. Somebody who used to race back in the day, as I could find, and I digress. But the point being, a guy like Ty, who's somebody who you and I probably haven't heard of, is receiving this much money and jumping around, that he speculates, Hathaway does, that at least 40 people have been significantly impacted by the program cuts. So if you take $18,000, let's say that's an average, it's probably a little high, let's make it 10. That is $400,000, timesing that by 40 people, that Specialized is saving. And I think to myself, that's their marketing budget, which is usually the first thing to go in an industry, but that's pretty substantial for them to cut out of nowhere in December when things were looking pretty good. Then when my video dropped just a couple days ago, we read over here on another Pink Bike article and other news outlets that Specialized lays off 8% of its employees in an organization adjustment. Now, if you are a little worried about the industry coming up and you wanted to save some money, are you going to let people know you're nervous because the trends that you're seeing? Or are you going to try to keep it under wraps and call it an organization adjustment? That's what Specialized did, and the article goes on to say that they have let go of 120 workers in the US, and then again 8% of Specialized employees nationwide. They can't cover up that they let people go, but they're going to try to minimalize it. And when I read this, I thought, I think Specialized, whether they realize it or not, is cluing us into the fact that the bike industry is really going to be hurting. And companies like Specialized, who have the data, who have the insider trading information, are looking at what's coming ahead, and they're probably trying to brace for it. And my guess would be, if I was in charge of this company, I would rather make small cuts early and then continually adjust every couple months instead of not doing a thing and then making huge layoffs later on. And then I started digging in deeper around the internet, and I found the most fascinating article about the largest bike manufacturer in the world who tried to cover up that they're actually trying to save money right now without people knowing. And it's a bike company that you may have heard of called Giant. Some of you may not realize Giant is the largest manufacturer of bikes in the world. Don't think just of their giant mountain bikes, gravel bikes, road bikes, but they make bikes for a ton of different companies from super low end to higher end that you know of in their brand. And the article says that Giant postpones payments to suppliers due to falling demand, rising inventory levels, and market headwinds. So let's jump into the specifics about why this article should be super interesting for us. So firstly, you have to know this is leaked information. Giant made all of their suppliers sign a whatever you call non-discretionary clause saying they won't share what's going on, and yet it leaked anyway, which they come out and say they're super bummed about. But they started by saying that sales were up 14% in the first 3 quarters of 2022. And I find it interesting that they lump all those things together, knowing that the last quarter, that is October through December of 2022, probably dropped Q4, and now looking into Q1 is where they're making these changes. So it continues. Even though things are looking up, they had sent a letter to suppliers asking for a 45-day payment extension, basically saying that they wanted to extend the time they had to give out payments, trying to make their financials look better, also realizing they probably don't need the raw material because they're not manufacturing bikes as much as they used to be. So the article goes on to say, considering all the headwinds in the current market environment. This is like the video I was making. You've probably seen a lot of people talk about the looming recession, not just in the States, but worldwide. Post-COVID demands for outdoor equipment like the cycling industry or anything entertainment or leisure is going way down. This is where things get really fascinating though. It goes on to say, the Giant Group has decided to manage this challenging situation with our supply chain partners by mitigating risks and conducting a proactive inventory control with the goal to return supply chain conditions back to normal over the next few months. And while that sounds good, that's really trying to make something look better than it is. They're saying they don't know what the future looks like. They're nervous. So instead of telling people, whether it be bike shops that they supply to or different companies, they're going to go to their suppliers and say, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit so that the rest of the world doesn't need to know. And yet we find this article coming out that they're doing this. So now the cat's out of the bag. We see other large companies like Specialized laying off employees, cutting back on social media influencers. And I think this is just the beginning. And I wanted to make this video because while we may read one article that's isolated, when you put it all together, my last video becomes more enticing to make a point that something is going on behind the scenes. I think the cycling industry may be in trouble more than we realize. I don't mean it's going to be gone. Obviously, it's still going to stick around, but it could mean a lot of changes for us as consumers. As always, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I want to keep you guys posted because I really enjoy this type of content, looking up what's going on, trying to guess what's going to happen in the future, and then updating you who may not be able to curate this information like I do. So leave a comment down below. Of course, hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on everything going on. And whatever you do, don't spend too much time watching people talk about bikes on the internet. Get out there, ride your bike, and if you can, make sure you do it every day.